broadcast, fellow citizens, and welcome to the Fragments of Silicon reviews. 3 reviews up this week, the first of which is a game called Ministry of Broadcast. So this is a game that's very obviously inspired from 1984. Kind of a motif. By way of the Running Man of all things.
Ah.
I know that's a bit unusual to say, but so what? The premise of this game is you are a contestant on a television show put out by, well, the Ministry of Broadcast. You're in some unspecified country, and things look like they went a bit V for Vendetta-y. Complete with, let's say, a Berlin Wall being built. And now this country has been divided into the nation of broadcasters and the nation of receivers, as in the people watching the television signal. And your character is a contestant on this program because he wants to go and be reunited with his wife, who is on the other side of the wall. And in order to do that, he has to win the contest, win the broadcast, which takes place over 5 days, if I'm recalling correctly. Though, given the nature of this broadcast, not all is what it seems. Or rather, things are exactly as you would think that they would be, if given that you probably have some passing familiarity with 1984 at this point. Big Brother, all that stuff.
We have always been at war with Micronesia, Eurasia.
None of that, although a bombing raid shows up in the middle of the, I think that was day 3. And, it's still presented as, sort of part of the game or part of the, broadcast. You got other, totalitarianistic, you've got the speech from Dear Leader Day. You've got, voting day, except the vote is rigged. And
do you want to vote for the ruling party?
Yeah.
There is no option to vote for anyone other than the ruling party, and voting is compulsory.
Well, the thing is, it's not the ruling party. It's voting for a color. Are you voting?
What I mean, though? It's the same idea.
Yes, but let me continue, because the premise of this is to get people, or at least a person, to vote for the opposing color. And that actually has ramifications down the line, which I can't talk about because not exactly what you would think they would be, but it plays into the final encounter. Yeah. And yeah, it's obviously this is a big treatise on the nature of totalitarianism, the role of the media in such things, and propaganda. Not exactly fresh ground for even video games. And this game isn't exactly subtle, although more subtle than I would have guessed, especially given the outcomes. But once again, can't really talk about that. Spoiler material. Now, as far as how the game plays, I classify this as a cinematic puzzle platformer. Now, when I say cinematic platformer, that actually is a very specific genre of platformer. Most popular in the 90s. Think games like Prince of Persia, Another World, Fade to Black, the early Oddworld games, Blackthorn. These are all what we would classify as cinematic platformers. The name is derived from Prince of Persia, because the way it animated its sprites is because of rotoscoping, used real people, and that was about as close as cinematography as you got with video games in, say, 1989 on the PC. And the term kind of stuck around. And it's not a uber popular subgenre these days, but clearly it has its works. And honestly, this game controls better than most of them. It's a lot more fluid than a lot of cinematic platformers I played over the years. That isn't to say that there isn't the trademark clunkiness, and that's probably going to be your biggest vector of enjoyment outside of, say, how you feel about the subject matter. But it's like, there are very deliberate actions, and everything is very deliberately animated, and that can cause some unruly deaths. It certainly did happen to me. The worst of which is jumping. And this is a problem I've had in other cinematic platformers. There are...
Well, yeah, being cinematic usually means that jump controls are a little bit
wonky.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, this specific thing I've had like as far back as Prince of Persia. Because there are distinct jumps for jumping forward and jumping up.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And the controller sometimes confuses the two. It's like, I wanted to jump up, but jumping forward, and guess what? Jumping forward has a lot more momentum, and you're not going to be jumping high enough to get up to the fucking ledge. Now, not a deal breaker, but it's definitely something that's there, and like I said, it's kind of endemic to the genre. And it's a puzzle platformer. It's like, there are some pure platforming segments, both static and having to deal with chases and races, let's say. But there's also segments where you've got to like push a box, push a crate, push thing, pull a lever, do typical puzzle platformer things to go forward. Some of which also involves making sure you drop not far enough to trigger fall damage. Yeah, like if you fall from a certain height, your legs will break, and it's game over. Which is another feature of cinematic platformers. It's like they have more realistic falling physics in the sense that you fall high enough, you will break something. Now, that all in all, it's like, it's not revolutionary in terms of any terms of structure or game mechanics, but it puts together a very nice package, a very functional package for this kind of game. Like, I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. Because like, my enjoyment of cinematic platformers has always been a bit give and take, because, well, I'm someone who grew up more on, like, say, Mario and Mega Man, games that had really, really sharp and precise and all that kind of controls. And cinematic platformers are kind of the opposite in terms of their design ethos. Mm-hmm. But like I said, this one worked really well. Probably because it kept things pretty simple. Like, you're not dealing with, say, Oddworld levels of puzzle difficulty, And, like, in terms of actually figuring things out, not too complicated most of the time. There were a few times I got a bit stuck, mainly trying to figure out one or two things. Still, game's not too long. I'd say your first run through will clock in at about 5 to 7 hours. I've seen runs go at like 2-3 hours, so it's not a really long game, which is fine. I think this game is the perfect length for what it is. Let's see. There is a bit of replay value. There is a collectible, like, although calling it a collectible is a bit egregious because it's kind of the opposite. But like the thing that you are, like the extra thing that you are on the lookout for are boots. It's like when your character wakes up for the first day of of broadcasting, his boots are gone for whatever reason. And over the course of the game, you will find other pairs of boots, and he will put them on in an attempt to get more boots, but he won't be able to put them on for one reason or another. And I think there's about 18 in total, if I'm remembering correctly. I think you only have to collect, I think it was 12. Not exactly sure because honestly, I didn't really bother getting all of the boots. But, and there is a reason to go through this bit of rigmarole because that will unlock the secret ending. Indeed, there are 3 endings, 2 of which hinge on your final choice. And that's all I can say about that. In terms of graphics, it's going for, it's pixel art. I'm not sure if it's specifically going for late 1980s PC graphics, but that's kind of what we got going here. Maybe like early 90s. Like this would be a game you'd buy in a big box from anywhere from the years of 1989 to say 1992. It's got that kind of graphical style. Though the kind of graphical style that would have been that would have faded really quickly in the 90s when stuff like King's Quest V and Commander Keen 4 were coming out. But once again, I'm not sure if there's a specific invocation of classic gaming here, if it's just an art style to invoke a sense of totalitarianism easier for whatever reason. This is the kind of thing that an interview breakdown would be helpful for. Because what I can say is the art style isn't really going for, oh, hey, this is a thing from out of this console or this handheld. The music is similarly very not chiptune-y, more synthwave. Very not very melancholy. A lot. For the most part, it does pick up in a few places. Like usually when you're going through your running sequences. And let me see pricing. So this game will clock in at $14.99 on Steam, and there is a Switch version as well. I'm not sure if this game is coming to the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, or if it is, when that would be happening. On Steam, there's also a option to get the soundtrack separately for $4.99, and the game and soundtrack for $17.98. I would go for the bundle deal. There is also a Big Brother bundle package that includes Ministry of Broadcast, Beholder, and Do Not Feed the Monkeys. Now, if I'm recalling, I think we reviewed Beholder like a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think we found it a pretty solid game. Do Not Feed the Monkeys, not familiar with that at all. But we are familiar with 2 of the games here, and they buy this for $30. And as far as if it's worth it at $15, I would say yes. Honestly, this is one of the best games I've played for review this year. That being said, the limiting factor might be the length of the game and its relative lack of replay value. I'd say maybe wait for a sale on this. It's kind of the problem I had with recommending Streets of Rage 4 at full price. It's a great game for the package that it offers, but it's also a really short package in terms of its main gameplay. And this one is additionally with a lot less in the way of replay value. I'll be honest, I went and YouTubed the secret ending. It wasn't that hard to do. But yeah, it's this is probably going to appear on my top 10 list at the end of the year. Granted, it's still only May, so we'll see what happens there, but I'd say a solid 8 out of 10. Anyway, so any questions, comments, or concerns?
Not on my end.
Not on my end.
I think I'm good.
Very good, very good. So that will conclude the broadcast of this review. Coming up next will be Smooth Movers. Yeah, this is a game.